The F1 circus heads to the forests of the Hockenheimring, screaming engines between the trees, just meters from disaster at all times during 44 laps of frantic action. Can Streamline continue their qualifying streak at their toughest test of the season so far? Find out next. Welcome back to my favourite series. Of course it's my favourite series, I'm biased, I make it. It's round 9 or episode 9 of Streamline, the 1988 season, where we make our own team and take it through Formula 1 and you join on the journey. It's all fun stuff. Today we head to the Hockenheimring. As said in the introduction, it's going to be very difficult because, as we know, our car has very little straight line speed and a lot of drag. It'll be a tough one, but Martin Brundle is going to give it his best shot. The constructors' standings going into this one, McLaren of course dominating in 1988 so far, and Ferrari in second place just ahead of Lotus. Arrows will slowly fall down in that order. I imagine maybe Williams and Benetton will catch up to them by the end of the season. Streamline though, still second to last. Our hopes or our aims will cover in the mail screen from, of course, our CEO of the company. Later on he'll let us know where we need to be by the end of the year, but for right now we're just ahead of Cologne. I'm so happy Martin Brundle did commit to the end of the year and not run away halfway through the season, because if he was ever to run away it might be this race. It's going to be very, very difficult to just qualify. Luckily though, as you'll find out in the news, we do not need to pre-qualify. Speaking of the news, let's find out what's been going on in the past week in Formula 1. Ligier assure fans that the new upgrades delivered for the British Grand Prix are effective. It was just yet another blip to have retired so early on. Andy Wallace impressed on debut, the 1988 Le Mans winner, showing his consistency with an 11th place finish. There are already rumours circulating that Wallace might be a hot commodity in the driver market for 1989. The FIA have changed the teams required to pre-qualify for the second half of the year. Based on previous qualifying results this season, Osella, Zakspeed and Eurobrunn will now be required to take part in pre-qualifying for the next 8 events. Honda have found a little performance increase, and this will be applied to both Lotus and McLaren. Tyrrell have been working hard with the new front wing and rear wing on the way for round 9. Zakspeed improved the power output of their engine ever so slightly. Benetton have successfully shaved around 2 kilograms off their overall car weight in a bid to challenge Williams full time. Osella bring a rear upgrade, boosting their engine performance, and Ferrari have been busy back at Maranello with weight being saved along with a new front wing. Streamline introduce a new rear wing sponsor in Paragon. They also bring a minor sponsor, Glenn Dimplex, courtesy of their reserve driver Martin Donnelly. And that's all for the news. So a few new upgrades for a few different cars. Honda bringing that upgrade to the engine for both McLaren and Lotus, so they're going to be even quicker in a straight line compared to what they already were, which was already much faster than anybody else. I imagine the field spread at this race in particular, because there's so many long straights and very little cornering, the gap between first and last is going to be maybe close to 10 seconds. Streamline though, of course, we have no new upgrades for the remainder of the season. Time to check the mailbox, and first we have a mail from Jean-Marie Balestre, or Balestre, I don't know how to pronounce it. Changes to pre-qualifying. This is a letter to all teams concerned by the changes to the pre-qualifying rules. As I stated at the head of the season, we are evaluating which teams should be required to participate in pre-qualifying. It has been decided that the 3 teams now required to pre-qualify are Zakspeed, Eurobrunn and Osella. Please make your team aware of these changes if they do concern you. Of course, we just covered that in the news, but this is confirmation from the head of FISA himself, Jean-Marie. Silly season is just about kicking off, and we have a mail here from Stefan Johansson, the Ligier driver. I hope this letter finds you well. It has come to my attention that I may not be in favour for the Ligier seat next year, and that brings me to the reason of this letter. Martin has told me himself that he will not be racing with Streamline for 1989, so I am expressing my potential availability for the seat. I bring a great amount of experience and knowledge of the sport, as well as a respectable level of performance. Keep me in mind, Stefan. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments. Would Stefan Johansson be a reasonable bet for the first driver seat at Streamline next year? Head of the team or company, or whatever you want to call it, Barry Goodburn, is talking about the new sponsors. Well, Toshiba are gone. I don't know what you were thinking with that choice, as we were in way over our head with a big company like them. Their replacement for the remainder of the season is Paragon, and their expectations are much lower. Donnelly has worked wonders and also brought in Glenn Dimplex. This means that our car is really starting to look the part on the grid. Keep it up. I don't know why Barry is blaming me for the Toshiba incident at the start of the season, when really it was him kind of bartering the deal in the first place, but I suppose I'll take the blame. And finally, as we are heading into the second half of the season, Barry Goodman has brought the new objectives. That's half the season complete already. In the first 8 rounds of the year, we have successfully qualified for every single event. We boast a 50% finish rate, I assume he means, with a best result of 13th on 3 separate occasions. During the second half of the year, we need to aim to qualify for the remaining events and hopefully achieve at least one top 10 result. In the Constructors' Championship, our objective should be to finish ahead of Coloni and Zach Speed. We are already ahead of Coloni. To beat Zach Speed on the current form of all the drivers, I think we need an 11th place finish. It is nice to see new sponsors on the car. So Paragon on for another 8 races. Glenn Dimplex on the car until the end of the season as well. That could extend into next year if we choose Martin Donnelly as our second driver. Like I said earlier, I would like an experienced driver for the first seat, and the second seat we can give a new driver a chance. Martin Donnelly, as he's a reserve driver anyway, and he's already familiar with the team, I think that would be an excellent choice. Just before we get into the race weekend, let's have a look at what the press has been talking about. First up, Fabio Missio from What F1, the half-season review. It's been a tale of what could have been for 1987 champion Nelson Piquet, who has fallen off in the championship race over the previous 5 events. Ayrton Senna has picked up the mantle and continues to stretch his lead at the top. The standout race this season has to be the Detroit Grand Prix, which saw Arrows take a historic 1-2 finish with American Eddie Cheever scoring victory. What will we see in the second half? I agree, that has to be the standout race. It was the one with the most shocking results. And Nelson Piquet, he's had 4 retirements in the past 5 races, finally returning to the points. Last time out in Britain, I don't think he's in the championship race anymore, and it's Senna's to lose. David Paul talking about Senna there, Senna running away. Ayrton Senna has picked up 3 victories and 2 second place finishes in the first 8 rounds this year. The Brazilian is gunning for his first ever victory in the championship, I assume, and I really think he can do it. It's not often that you see such clarity in a relatively unproven driver, but that is what we are seeing with this young man. The rate things are going, the championship could well be wrapped up with a few rounds to spare. I think he's already in the lead by about 15 points at the halfway stage, and David Paul could be correct. Senna could have this thing wrapped up and his first World Championship secured before the end of the season. James Emptage at Inside F1, silly season begins. The rumour mill is in full rotation. I've heard mumblings that Prost is unhappy at McLaren and already looking at options elsewhere. It also seems that Nakajima's time at Lotus could be up at the end of the year, with reserve driver Johnny Herbert tipped to replace him. Reports are suggesting that Streamline have been in contact with Nakajima regarding the seat for 1989. We'll see a lot of this silly season over the next few races, the next few weeks, the next few months until 1989 gets underway. But Nakajima linked to Streamline, Johansson's now linked to Streamline, Martin Brundle, I don't know where he's going to go, and Johnny Herbert potentially replacing Nakajima. And what about Prost? Where would he go? Maybe a spot opening up at Ferrari. A lot to think about, of course. Let me know down in the comments below what you think of all of the silly season nonsense and who goes where. But for now, let's get into the race weekend, pre-qualifying for the German Grand Prix. Pre-qualifying underway, and Nicola Larini in the Acela was the first driver to set a time and duly took pole position in pre-qualifying. Streamline, of course, not competing in pre-qualifying anymore. Bernd Schneider gets held up there by, I believe, that's Ginzani getting held up by Oscar Larori. So Eurobrunn versus Zach Speed, the hot battle of the pre-qualifying grid at least. And then we see Stefano Modena jump up to second place. Then we saw Bernd Schneider go out, and he actually took first place away from the Osella of Larini. So maybe Zach Speed with a bit of pace early on in this session, but as the session developed, the Osella went out again, and Larini once again took first place, and the Zach Speed started to tumble down as there's Oscar Larori jumping up to second for the time being. I think he eventually fell back to third behind his teammate. But looking at the results of pre-qualifying, it's Larini first by more than a second ahead of Modena and Larori, and the 2 Zach Speeds who are new and fresh to the pre-qualifying format down in 4th and 5th, which means Ginzani misses out on the main qualifying session and Schneider just scrapes through by the skin of his teeth. It's tough to see what's happening to Zach Speed because they don't have the slowest car on the grid, but a bunch of drivers, the 2 drivers they have, just aren't up to par with many of the rest of the grid, so they're failing to qualify. They've only qualified for 2 out of the 8 events so far, and probably 2 out of the 9 events after we go into this qualifying session. Speaking of, let's check out what happened for qualifying for the German Grand Prix. Qualifying got underway, and Brundle decided to go out first.
Right, Martin, let's see what you can do, mate. Good luck.
So it's up to Brundle to set the time, but actually he got overtaken by Patrese on his outlap. So Patrese across the line to go into first place. Brundle round the final corner on his first lap, but he's not too quick. It's a 1:55.6. He'll have to go much quicker.
We'll need to go much quicker, mate.
Well, there we go. The race engineer has said it for me. Second run is slightly better, 54.7. Needs to go quicker though.
Yours a bit better, box spot.
As he comes back into the pits, Prost goes out and takes pole position for McLaren. No sign of Ayrton Senna just yet. And Andy Wallace in the March goes up to second place. Wallace on absolute fire here today, at least during qualifying, as Senna does eventually go out. And he takes provisional pole position away from his teammate. Wallace tumbling down the order slightly now as Johansson has an issue out on circuit. He stops, but he's already set a pretty decent time before that, so he should be fine to make it onto the grid.
All or nothing now, all or nothing.
Pressure is on for Brundle. He'll need to go much quicker. Alboreto up to third place. Bumps Wallace even further down. But it's still a very good showing from the March driver who made his debut last weekend. Senna goes even quicker on his second run to extend his lead at the top of the table. Brundle needs to do something miraculous here, but it's not quick enough. It's a 54.7 again.
Not good enough, mate. We need more time. Final attempt now.
Brundle, pressure is on. He's in 27th place, the top 26 qualifier, of course, and he's on his final run as Dalmas, slowing down, gets collected by Palmer on the back stretch. Dalmas definitely out of the session for now, but he's already put in a pretty good time. Brundle, the pressure is on though. This is his final run in qualifying, and he needs to find just a 1/10.5 of a second to get onto the grid. It's very late in the session as well. I think there's about 8 minutes left to go, so I doubt anybody else will be going quicker around him. This lap needs to count for Martin Brundle. Through the first chicane, bouncing across the curbs, the Streamline looking pretty planted, but we know it's struggling down the straights with the drag on the car. Very draggy car, and the engine, the Ford engine, is not really up to par at all. And he's just maxing out at maybe just shy of 260 kilometers an hour, but through the first timing line we go. Is it up on his previous best? It is. It is as he throws it into the next chicane. Oh, he spun it around. That's it for Brundle. He's not making it onto the grid. Streamline's first ever qualifying failure. Brundle just losing the back end there. That's a disaster. So Streamline out. Let's check out the starting grid for the German Grand Prix. Onto the starting grid, and Ayrton Senna claims pole position yet again for McLaren alongside teammate Alain Prost. Gerhard Berger and Michele Alboreto, the two Ferraris, a distant third and fourth. And then, surprisingly, we have the march of Andy Wallace in only his second F1 race, qualifying up in 5th place ahead of reigning world champion Nelson Piquet. The Williams of Mansell starts from 7th alongside Boutsen, and Patrese, Mansell's teammate, down in 9th place. Nakajima in the second Lotus, whose seat is under threat from Johnny Herbert, starts from 10th place. Nannini in the second Benetton sets off from 11th. The Gugelmin, a distance behind his teammate, starts in 12th. The hero of the Detroit Grand Prix, Eddie Cheever, in 13th place, with teammate Warwick alongside on the 7th row. Then it's René Arnoux in the Ligier in 15th place. After suffering a mechanical failure halfway through qualifying, Johansson's best time put him in 16th ahead of the two LaRouche drivers Alliot and Dalmas. Jonathan Palmer, he crashed with Dalmas halfway through that session, qualifies in 19th place. Then it's Luis Perez Sala rounding out the top 20 with teammate Martini in 21st. Hub Rothengatter in 22nd place, making it a habit to qualify for the race ahead of Larini in the Arcella. Then it's Gabriel Tarquini, Alex Caffey and Philip Strive completing the starting grid. That means Martin Brundle for the first time this season misses out on starting grid, followed by Modena, Schneider and Larori all missing out. Now, usually we'd have Streamline's onboard footage for this race, but because Streamline are not on the grid today, we have got special permission from Ligier to ride on board with René Arnoux for the entirety of the German Grand Prix. So, there's only one more thing to do, and that's go racing. The 1988 German Grand Prix is next. Thanks to Ligier for providing the footage on screen, and here we are on the grid, riding on board 15th place man René Arnoux. The lights are underway. I think he gets hit up the rear end of his car there slightly by one of the LaRouche drivers further back. It could have been, well, either Daumas or Alio. Into the first corner we go. 13th place for Arnaud on the exit of the first corner, so he's already gained 2 places. Ligier really struggling so far this season, especially in the past 3 races, so they'll absolutely love to get a result. Who's not getting a result? It's Alex Caffey, out after the first corner melee. He retires. He's the first driver to retire from this Grand Prix, and it seems that the Ligier does not have the legs on the march of Gugelmin in a straight line, and I think there might have been a little contact there with Derek Warwick behind as well. As at the end of lap 1, starting lap 2, it's Senna from Prost, Berger from Alboreto, Andy Wallace right now holding his own in 5th place, but already forming a train of quite a number of cars behind him, including reigning world champion Nelson Piquet. Not sure how long Wallace will be able to stay in those positions after absolutely fantastic qualifying lap. He really exceeded expectations with that lap in qualifying, and his teammate Gugelmin down in 13th, battling with the likes of Arnaud, who we've been riding on board with already. As Johansson versus Alio then. This is for the lowly position of, I believe, 15th place. Johansson looking to the inside of the LaRouche driver, who might be carrying a bit of damage after rear-ending Arnaud on the opening lap. And through goes Johansson to gain a position. As Arnaud under pressure here from Derek Warwick. The Arrows is definitely much better than the Ligier, so Arnaud will do an excellent job if he can keep Derek Warwick behind for at least a little bit longer. And Gugelmin really not getting away from this pack up ahead, as this is Piquet trying to get past Andy Wallace, and it's proving to be more difficult than the reigning world champion probably imagined. Wallace has the inside line for the hairpin in the stadium section and holds on to the position for yet another lap. Great battling there up and down the grid, as we now focus on the battle for 14th place, and through goes Warwick again. Can Arnaud fight back? This is where Arnaud has been really strong in the stadium section, opting for a bit more downforce than other drivers, and he retakes that position again. Can he chase after Gugelmin? That'll be the question. That's Boutsen slowing down, and he's been collected by Patrese and Nakajima, and his teammate as well, Nannini. So I think they've all picked up damage, and they'll all be into the pits. As there you can see the debris across the circuit. Luckily, nobody else caught up in that incident, and now it's Gugelmin versus Arnaud into the second to last corner. Arnaud has the inside line, almost loses the back end, and can't quite make it through. Looking at Hub Rothengatter against, that must be Philip Strife in the AGS, and this is for 21st position up the inside. Nice move there from Rothengatter, gaining a place. As on board with Arnaud again, and that's once again Warwick moving up the inside, then running wide, and Arnaud retakes that position. This is the battle now, technically for 10th place between Gugelmin, Arnaud, and Warwick. And up the inside into the first corner goes Arnaud. He's into the top 10 now. His teammate Johansson a bit further back in about 14th place. But Ligier looking good so far, as that's Patrese trying to get past Strife, and Strife blocking the inside line. Patrese, of course, had to repair his front wing after the incident with Boutsen, and that's why he finds himself all the way down there. As Gugelmin once again moves past Arnaud. Arnaud's outbroke himself, and he's going to cut across the chicane there to avoid losing any more time, but he does lose a couple of positions, and once again gets hit up the back by Yannick Daumas. That's happened twice already in the first 8 laps, as this is Mansell looking for a move on, well, Wallace and Piquet ahead, and Nakajima potentially looking interested. Is going to take it round the outside against Mansell. Mansell holds on to the position though, but those four are all really stuck together behind a march, and this is another march train, and that's Warwick defending from Arnaud. Arnaud looking to the inside for turn 1. Warwick defends the inside line, and then on the exit, I mean, they've got more straight line speed than Arnaud, but under braking into this stadium section, it's once again Warwick on the outside, Arnaud on the inside, and Arnaud this time retakes the position. That's 11th place yet again. That battle is raging on, raging on. It's been fantastic to watch, as that's Patrese getting past Strife. Finally, next up would be Hub Rothengatter. You can see Nannini, I think, in the background, making some moves in the Benetton. As lap 11 now, Senna still leads Prost, Alboreto, Berger, Wallace and Piquet. The top 6 remain unchanged. In fact, there's hardly any changes in the top 20. Hub Rothengatter is now inside that top 20. Boutsen out the race, of course. His teammate Nannini outside the top 20 right now. Patrese on his road to recovery, only up to 19th, whilst his teammate Mansell in 7th place. So Williams right now not scoring any points at all. Gugelmin so far off his teammate though already. Andy Wallace has really proven himself as a very capable driver. It's probably what we should have expected. He is a Le Mans champion, and his teammate Gugelmin under pressure again. That time Arnaud actually does pull off the move. So René Arnaud into the top 10 places. Patrese shaping up a move on Yannick Daumas into turn 1. Oh, he's outbroke himself. That's got to be brake failure. He's into the wall there, the tyre barrier. Patrese out of the race. It went from bad to worse. He was already fighting a losing battle, really, after the first incident, as Gugelmin has tagged the back of Arnoux there into the stadium section, and Arnoux is going to lose a whole host of positions and time. It's going to fall all the way down to, what's that, 14th place? Not good. We'll take a replay. Yeah, it was a late move there from Gugelmin, and he just tagged the back of Arnoux. Arnoux losing grip. And here's Martini pulling into the pits to retire. It's a gearbox issue for the Minardi, so he'll be going no further in this race. As lap 14, it's Wallace, Piquet and Mansell all into the pits on the same lap. So it's going to be a race of the pit crews to see who can get their man out back into the race first. They all stop on their marks very close in the pit lane as well. All on the jacks, all drop down off the jacks. And away Wallace goes, and he holds on to the position. So there's no chance of an undercut, overcut, or anything. Any sort of cut for Piquet or Mansell. As now Arnoux on the road fighting back after that incident with Gugelmin. Palmer is not as fast in that Tyrrell as the Ligier is in a straight line. So at least it's good compared to Streamline, who were clearly the slowest in a straight line on the whole grid. It's nice to actually see somebody be able to slipstream and overtake like Arnoux has been doing there, as Prost overtakes Senna because Senna is into the pits. So Alain Prost, the McLaren, takes the lead on lap 16, but I'm sure Senna will be into the pit soon. Prost should be into the pit soon, should I say. And those positions might switch around again as Johansson into the pits. So the Ligier of Arnoux once again moves up ahead of his teammate, as that is Senna retaking the lead. So Prost did pit on lap 18. Alboreto took the lead briefly, and now Alboreto's gone into the pits. So Senna up to first place. Berger is now in second and Prost in third as we finally reached lap 22. So half race distance, Senna, Prost, Alboreto, Berger, the top four. So Berger just went into the pits on lap 21. Wallace, once again, still ahead of Piquet. This is amazing. If he can somehow finish 5th place in this race, that'll be maybe one of the performances of the season, but he's under huge pressure there. Arnoux and Johansson, the two Ligiers, where we've really been focusing on today. Thank you once again to Ligier for providing the footage. I'd like to see them get a top 10 performance if they can somehow pull that one off. But we'll have to wait and see. It's only half race distance, so there's still a lot of laps to go. As into the pits for their one and only stop, René Arnoux. He fueled up for the whole race, so he's only changing tyres, so there should be a very short pit stop. No fuel needed to go in the car, and he rejoins in 16th, just behind Palmer and just behind Gugelmin. So that'll be the battle that rages on for the next few laps. But Jonathan Palmer, sitting tuck on the main straight after the first corner, is going to lose out there to René Arnoux, who moves up into the top 15 places, and now will be chasing after Maurizio Gugelmin in the March, who, like I said, has been so far off the pace of his teammate Andy Wallace this weekend. So there's Nakajima putting a move on one of the Arrows cars for a position. I think that might be for 8th position. Nakajima pitting maybe on a one-stop compared to the Arrows that he overtook, and that's Daumas putting a move on the only Minardi left in the race, Perez Sala. That's for 11th place. As on board with Arnoux, he's almost, well, he is side by side on the exit of the first corner with the March, but the number 15 just pulling away with the extra grunt of the engine. But this is the bread and butter of Arnoux this weekend, into the stadium section. Brilliant move, a late move, and that's 14th place. Next up is teammate Stefan Johansson. Philip Strife not going anywhere further than he is already. He's expired, his engine's expired, so he's pulling off to the side of the circuit to retire his AGS from this event. As into the final corner, that's a bit wide there from Arnoux, and he's lost the back end. Round he goes. Well, it's nice to see not only Martin Brundle spins, it happens to any driver, and we've just seen René Arnoux make a small mistake there and lose a good 5 seconds of lap time as Palmer's engine is about to expire. This should be an easy move. That's the 3rd time this race that Arnoux has had to overtake Palmer, and that should be the final time Arnoux needs to overtake Palmer today, as Palmer surely retiring from the race any second now. Alboreto on board with the Ferrari, and I think that's brake failure. Oh, that's a big crash. That is a massive crash from Alboreto. We've already seen him injured once this season, and that could be yet another injury for Alboreto. As the leader Senna into the pits, Alain Prost retakes the race lead on lap 27. That was a huge crash for Alboreto. I hope he's okay. Those braking boards, or whatever they were called, the barriers on the exit of the corner, they are made of absolute steel. Crazy stuff. Palmer retires though. Jonathan Palmer, he pulls off to the side of the circuit on lap 28, so he's not going any further. His engine was smoking for a number of laps. As Prost into the pits on the following lap means Ayrton Senna will retake the race lead. He already is the championship leader, and he looks to be extending his championship lead with another victory here today unless something goes wrong. And this is Arnoux versus Gugelmin yet again, and on the exit of that second chicane, through goes Arnoux. So the Ligier now up to 11th place, his teammate Johansson in the top 10 position. 10th and 11th for Ligier will go down very, very well. But Gugelmin fighting back. Brilliant work there from the March driver, the rookie, to get back through. And Arnoux to the inside. That would have been a very late move. He can't quite pull it off. But this battle will rage on through the next few corners. Maybe an opportunity up the inside into this second to last corner. And Arnoux's going to take it and takes the position back. So that's 11th place for the Frenchman here at the German Grand Prix. As Nelson Piquet rejoining. Andy Wallace was in the pits a lap prior. And Piquet's got the jump on Wallace. So Nelson Piquet finally getting past Andy Wallace, who has fallen behind the Lotus driver. And Piquet now lapping Wallace's teammate Gugelmin. That's not going to work. Into the chicane. He's hit the wall. He's lost his front wing and he's held up Nannini as well. He's going to lose loads of positions. But it hasn't updated on the top 20 scoreboard yet. So we will expect Piquet to fall as soon as he pits. He's going to fall all the way down to maybe 8th place behind Andy Wallace. Should still be clear of Derek Warwick though. But as we do reach 3/4 race distance, it's still Senna from Prost. Berger, just the only Ferrari left in this race, holding on to a 3rd place, a podium. Berger's had a bunch of bad luck so far this year with a number of retirements. We have 19 drivers left in this event with only 11 laps to go. And on lap 41, Arnoux's engine goes up in smoke as he's getting lapped by the leaders for, I believe, the 3rd time. And Arnoux out of this one from a promising 11th place finish. That's a disaster. And even more disaster strikes as Gerhard Berger stops on circuit with 2 laps to go. Berger out of this one, and that's going to leave Ayrton Senna to round the final corner for the final time after 44 laps of racing to claim victory, and another McLaren 1-2. Senna extends his championship lead. So yet again, another McLaren 1-2. Nakajima in the Lotus claims a podium. Only 2 drivers finishing on the lead laps, and it's the 2 McLarens. Mansell avoids all the incident and carnage, finishes in 4th, and Cheever picking up more points. But start of the day has to go to Andy Wallace. After a brilliant qualifying lap on Saturday, backs it up with a points finish. His first ever points finish in Formula 1 in 6th place. Warwick just misses out. Piquet's late incident sees him fall down to 8th, and Johansson getting in 9th place for Ligier. That would go down well for the team, who have suffered 3 back-to-back double DNFs in a row. Nicola Larini in Osella up in 15th place. Surprisingly, not as many retirements as you may have imagined, considering the circuits and the characteristics of it. But Berger retiring late on, that'll be tough for Ferrari to take. Arnoux, late engine failure as well from a promising 11th place finish. And to add insult to injury for Ferrari, Alboreto apparently might be injured for the foreseeable future. And that will mean that reserve driver Roberto Moreno once again slots in to fill the gaps. With 7 rounds to go in the year, Senna now boasts a 19-point lead in the championship. Cheever and Alboreto tied on points, so Cheever once again up to 4th place in the championship standings. I mean, he could well finish in the top 5 come the end of the year, which will be the standout performance of the year. Roberto Moreno, who will be coming in to fill in for Alboreto if injured, is currently in 15th place. Wallace sees his stock rise even further and now is a point scorer in Formula 1, although it doesn't show it on the graphic for some reason, but he does have 1 point and he is in 19th place in the championship. It also means that Martin Brundle slips even further down. He's 32nd place, his first DNQ of the season. And it's not looking too bright for Streamline right now. It's all colourful and rainbows and whatever the saying is for McLaren though, who approach 100 points scored this season already. They are far and away the leaders, but Lotus and Ferrari only separated by 1 point, and Arrows scoring yet again today. They're still kind of holding on in that battle for 2nd place. It's not going to happen surely, but it's looking good. 9 teams scoring points so far this year. Streamline, luckily, still not last as Tarquini did not score a good enough result today. And that is the end of the episode. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. If you're watching and you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure to get yourself subscribed, like the video, and comment down below what you think about Streamline not even qualifying. Also, let me know what you think about the silly season, the rumours that we saw in the news earlier today. What do you think about all that? Could Nakajima go to Streamline? Is Prost really leaving McLaren? Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Thank you ever so much for watching, and I cannot wait to see you in the next one. Goodbye.